Hi friends, today we are going to have a very interesting conversation with Dr. Yash Mody, who is a CTO on multiple companies and have been working on a lot of technologies over the last 20 years. It's a pleasure having you, Dr. Yash.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prakash. I appreciate you having me here. It's not an easy topic that I have to speak on, and I'm glad that you come with a little bit of background on
Yes.
technology. It'll help to know your background on technology as well before I start.
I have been working on electromagnetics for the last 20 years and have a fair understanding of various technologies and always a keen learner. So look forward to learning about biometrics and authentication.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Not many people have a keen interest on the subject, so great.
Cool. So let's start with about you and what you do and what's your work profile is like.
Sure. So, like you mentioned, I've been working in tech for about 20 years, a little more than that. And currently, I'm CTO for a company called DEPT, which is a Dutch-based organization. I lead the India operations, and I'm also CTO for a company called Avatar, which is in the biometric space. Well, that is what we're essentially talking about today.
Yeah.
So that's what I do mainly.
And what is your interest in biometrics? How did you get into this field?
That's
Very unique and very.
It's an interesting and long story. I hope you like long stories.
Yes, of course.
So,
Please go ahead.
from a biometric perspective, I think I was always, a lot of my research is around data and encryption. So if you look at today, data and encryption, it is essentially a subject that, is growing, expanding constantly. But with expansion of data and for example, your profile data, also what is happening is compromising on security. That has become a very common aspect now. You keep on hearing about identity theft and a host of other things. So this started back in 2017 when I started doing some research on alternate ways to secure profile and so on and so forth. And since then we've made rapid progress in how can we enable biometric authentication using different modalities like face, like your palm, like your walking gait, cheaper, more accessible, and more secure.
Okay. Like I always see many people saving their passwords on a Word file and keeping in a computer, or saving those passwords in your phone. How safe is that? Is that not already available to the systems and software,
So,
and I'm vulnerable?
if you think about password themselves today are a source of risk. If even if you don't save them, ability to leak a password, because passwords are going to be saved somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So leaking of password, somebody hacking into your phone are common things that it's not unheard of. It's a very common premise. It's not something that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
So password themselves are not a very good way of securing anything, to be honest, right? So that's the basic premise, that having password itself is the first gap. And from there, whether you save the password in a secure place, whether you save the password on a text file, whether you don't save the password, you remember all your passwords, you still are at a risk.
Sounds scary, but yeah, we live in that world where we are vulnerable at multiple levels, and it will be interesting to learn about how can I secure better. What are your recent realizations or findings in this space?
So a lot of my work has happened in the work of digital transformation. So if you go, for example, let me give you a short example of probably you and me are almost the same age. So if you look at our parents, they lived in something called as a need-based economy, where if they wanted a house, they would go find a house based on their budget, take a house wherever they could find it, right? Then we probably grew up in a desire-based economy where we said, I want a house in a specific area, in a specific locality of a specific size, right? From there on, we moved on to something very interesting. We moved on to something called as experience-based economy in the last 10 years or so, where people want to travel abroad, where people want to, build the house, the interiors of the house in a specific way. And people want to experience different kind of adventures, different kind of things. And that's why if you ask somebody, why are you primarily earning? The experience. To now, where we've moved to a need-based, to an immediate gratification economy. Today, in India, if you open apps like Swiggy, Blinkit, Instamart, you're able to order a TV in a matter of 8 minutes. Forget about everything else, right? So as we have kept on moving more and more into a dynamically changing, rapidly available world, we've also exposed more and more about us. For example, when you do your KYC, you expose yourself completely by providing all your information, including your bank accounts. And
Yes.
who is asking for your KYC today, right? Similarly, when you start doing or you do any transaction, so in an expanding world, security is becoming more and more vulnerable, and that's where the need for biometrics resonates a lot more, right? So what I'm noticing is that we are at a very vulnerable point of time where everything that we do is open, is accessible. It's easy to sort of get all the information about Prakash online and then replicate, that profile. I'm sure you heard about a fraud on Facebook where people create a duplicate profile
Yes,
of yours.
yes, yes.
You heard about it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it happened with me once.
Yeah.
My Instagram account was duplicated, and then one of my staff was sent a message that I need so much funds, and then the poor fellow transferred the funds.
Wow. I hope you
And
did not
then he
get it.
calls me after the transfer. Then I said, "What happened? You could have called me before the transfer."
So
Yeah.
you've been a victim of this, right?
Absolutely.
And so as you notice that the whole world today is vulnerable, and people have found avenues to create frauds on UPI on different aspects. So I think one of the greatest realizations that I've had now is that if we don't fix it now, we will leave so many gaps in the way we function that it will become dysfunctional in some time.
Understood. And so you briefly mentioned about biometrics. So what is biometrics? Just help us understand it, and how does it all relate to solving these problems?
Yeah, so biometric, to explain it very simply, is the ability to use either your face, your eyes, your fingerprint. We've been using biometrics since the start of time, right? We've been using thumbprints to validate people
Yes.
for a long, long time. And then for some strange reason, we moved to a signature, which by no means can validate you. Yeah? Signature is one of the weakest forms of authentication, but we adopted to it, we accepted to it, because people have stopped, I think, evolved to stop having thumbs. Probably.
Yeah.
So, so in a nutshell, biometric is a way to identify you using you, right?
Right.
And it could be, and now with the changing trends in biometric, it could be the way you walk, it could be the way you talk, it could be the way you sit or you shake your hands. The aspects that come under biometrics today are really varied.
Okay. Is it also same where we are digitally signing documents using? Is that the same way of authentication, or that's something different?
Yeah. So most digital authentications today come under the realm of authenticating your device. They don't really authenticate, even if you put a digital signature using a USB drive or OTP, for example, right?
Yes.
Tell me honestly, have you ever shared an OTP with somebody?
Well, that's a very personal question. I would not like to answer that, but yeah.
Your podcast, you can edit it.
Yeah, of course, I can edit it. I can cut it later.
Sure.
So to answer that, I think almost every time, because I'm traveling and then my staff is handling certain transactions, they ask me, "Sir, share the OTP," and all the time I'm doing it.
So that there you have your answer, right?
Yeah.
So we are coming to a point where OTP, even if you use Aadhaar for that matter, and we'll come to Aadhaar later. Aadhaar is an interesting aspect because biometric today in India is equal to Aadhaar. OTP has become a standard way of authenticating a person while we are authenticating a device.
Right.
You go into a room full of people, it'll be easier for you to find somebody who has 15 degrees than to find somebody who's never shared an OTP. So that's how bad it is.
Yeah, true. So, Dr. Yash, we have Aadhaar, we have Face ID recognition, and then even thumb, recognition. With all these in place, are we not fully equipped in terms of biometrics? Is there anything different that we are looking ahead in the future?
So going back to my previous point, that's what I was trying to say, that with Aadhaar, while onboarding has happened biometrically,
Yes.
but every time you're validating your phone number, because when you do an Aadhaar eKYC, you get an OTP, you take that OTP. Now your Aadhaar authentication can be done by anybody else, right? Whomever you give your OTP to.
Yes.
So basically, Aadhaar is not really biometric verification. It is biometric based verification where you have biometric data, but that biometric data is not really used to identify you. It uses to identify your device, and hence it is not pure biometric authentication. So let me break down biometric authentication for you into three parts, right? First is biometric onboarding. There is a heavy cost of onboarding biometric. So when you have to set up Aadhaar, you have to set up different centers where you go and people have to come there, they have to scan their faces, you need different kind of devices, it takes a lot of time. So there is a lot of investment that goes into onboarding somebody onto biometric. Then comes biometric storage and distribution. Now, most of this biometric data is essentially a map of your face called as a vector, right? This vector essentially allows you to replicate, and they use something called a template. So, using this vector in a template, every time you present your face, it takes a picture of your face, matches the vector, uses the previous template, and says, "Yes, this is Prakash," right? Now the challenge is that this template and vectors both are vulnerable, especially now in the modern day era of computing. I can just sort of easily reverse a vector, right? I can easily steal that data. So you'll be amazed to know, for example, for Face ID or for most devices, high-end devices, all the biometric data is stored in a different chip. It is not stored in the same storage device that you have. So wherever your photos are stored, it's not stored on the same storage. It's stored on a completely off this thing, on a different chip onto the motherboard. So with that kind of storage, the cost of storage is also high, right? And biometrics are also closed system. For example, I cannot share your Aadhaar biometric data with tomorrow if you move to some other country and say that Prakash's biometric data is this. You can continue using his biometric data for the rest. You will have to recreate that biometric data.
For that country.
For that country. For that matter, one organization to other organization, right? You are giving so today you are not aware how many places have your biometric data. You are not aware. And the last mile of execution is always a problem, right? Because the person that you're handing over your details to, the person who's taking your biometrics, when you do KYC, the person whom you're handing over your documents to,
right,
that person is where the trust can be breached, right? No matter how strong system you create, if the last mile of execution is not in place, then you're still at a risk of a major loss. And hence, most of these biometric systems are extremely expensive across the three non-distributable. They cannot be distributed. Excuse me. And the bigger challenge that you have today with these systems is that they're non-portable, right? So they're non-portable. You cannot storing them is difficult, and then the last thing is authentication is expensive, right? That is why you see that biometric authentication lives in the world of B2B, but not really in the world of B2C. In consumer, we still rely on OTP because biometric is an expensive process for the outcome that it gives you.
So, hearing about it sounds and then also makes a strong case that it's going to be an expensive affair. So, how cost effective would it going to be if we want to make it like the default authentication process?
Before we go there, let us paint a future of biometrics, right? How about how about if you are able to access, if you know that your face data, one, cannot be stolen. Second, even if it is stolen, it cannot be used. Third, it can have a fixed timeline that every few weeks, every few months, or in a few days it will expire, right? Fourth, it is portable. Fifth, it is completely in your control. To whom do you want to give it, for how long, and how do you want to distribute it? For it. Then let me give you a few examples, right? Driverless cars. Tomorrow, when driverless cars become a reality, for you to access a car using your face without somebody having the ability to steal that data is very, very important, right? And hence, if you realize, all of it today, if you want to do KYC or if you want to prove who you are, you have to give somebody your identity card. They look at your identity card and they would decide that you are who you say you are, right? Yeah. But you can change all of this in a very simple way, is by introducing a biometric mechanism which is portable and which is what do you call it, non-breachable, right? And do you have kids?
Yeah, I have one daughter. Yeah.
So imagine that, and I'm sure that in the modern day people are very aware and alert of the surroundings that their kids are in, right? When they go to school, who's picking them up, who's dropping them,
right,
who comes home, and so on and so forth. So every time you have a stranger has to come and handle your kid, right? How do you validate? How do you authenticate the stranger is who they say they are? When you go out on dates, you in the sense when somebody goes out on dates, or when people get married, right? To validate that the person is out, when people give interviews, we've heard about all of these frauds where people who claim to be who they are and then somebody who turns up are completely different, right? How do you solve this problem? So to solve this problem in the future, biometric has to become a very secure, easily transferable, and a very low cost authentication mechanism. So that's how it looks.
Sounds very interesting and also utopian in that sense. So how realistic is this? Are we going to see a future
Oh
in
yes,
which
yes.
it's
So,
going to become real?
so we already have about 14 patents, and we've implemented a solution around this. So there's a company called Avatar which I run, it's based out of the US. I have a partner in it, and so it is. We've already realized this. We've already come to closer to reality than ever in terms of having a mechanism where different modalities can work together. Where different, for example, my face and and the way I create what do you call it, the output, right, from the biometric process is consistent. So I don't need to save your face anywhere.
Okay.
I don't need to have any data about you for me to validate you in the future. Right? Every time you come, I'm able to validate you using your face and your face only. So this takes away the ability for somebody to steal your data. Right? So we already reached a phase where biometric data is portable now. You could do authentication onto your own device. You can use the same key to authenticate yourself onto some other device, or you can do a third-party authentication. That means like DigiYatra, you can authenticate yourself on a server.
Okay.
So it is very close to realization.
But help me understand, Dr. Yash, how is it that without a reference data saved somewhere, you are able to validate the identity?
That's what the patent is all about.
Oh,
that's a secret sauce, right? That's where we've sort of managed to do years and years of research.
Amazing.
Brought together a team which is capable of understanding this, and so.
Great. And what about the reach? Because will you not require an infrastructure to have the reach to all the sections of the society for this technology?
Yeah, absolutely, and that is why it is
internet or
yes, internet.
Smartphones.
Luckily, everybody has internet. Most people have smartphones. It will be cheaper for governments to provide smartphone to individuals than to try and set up an authentication mechanism for the entire country, right? So from that side, and it's not unheard of. For example, Chhattisgarh government gave mobile phones to everybody, to all farmers, right? Students get laptops very frequently. So it is not unheard of devices being given to individuals who are incapable of, but in today's day and world, we have to sort of design a system assuming having certain assumptions in mind.
Okay.
So, but look at the flip side of it, right? Today, spam. If you see, WhatsApp is going closer and closer to SMS.
Yes.
Right? And I mean, everybody and anybody who has your details can spam you. How do you stop spamming? Phishing, right? Somebody sending you a link which looks like a bank's link and then taking away your password. Right? These are all realities. Frauds are realities. So today, if you have to prevent all of these, you have to get rid of passwords. You have to get rid of OTPs. You have to get rid of weak authentication mechanism. And you have to bring in some realistic authentication mechanisms that allow people to, and at scale, at scale, for example, our goal is at scale is to bring the cost of authentication to the same cost of sending an SMS. So whether you do an OTP verification or you do a biometric authentication, from the organization perspective, the cost is the same.
Interesting. Dr. Yash, now we're going to do something interesting.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a few questions rapidly, and I'm expecting rapid answers.
Okay.
Okay. What is the main difference between authentication and authorization?
Authentication is who you are. Authorization is what you can do.
What role does multi-factor authentication play with biometrics?
So multi-factor authentication replaces OTP with second-level biometric authentication. So you can use your face and your thumb. You can use your face and your palm, etc.
Can biometric data be stolen or faked?
Yes and yes.
Why is biometric authentication becoming more popular in security systems?
Because for all the things that we discussed, OTPs are useless, passwords can be stolen, so biometric is more secure.
Does biometric authentication infringe on individual privacy rights? And if so, can this be ethically justified?
The way biometric systems work today, yes, they do. But there is a way in which we are building biometric that does not infringe on people's rights.
Should individuals have absolute control over their biometric data, including the rights to edit or delete it?
Absolutely. Me as an individual should have total and complete right over my biometric data.
Is it morally acceptable to use biometric systems that might exclude or misidentify vulnerable population?
Sometimes it is going to happen that you end to have errors, but then that is the goal is to reduce that particular gap.
What responsibilities do organizations have to ensure transparency and accountability in biometric data use?
They should not store any data or associate any data of the user with the biometric data. They should be completely decoupled from each other.
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
answering those questions for us. Well, Dr. Yash, I heard that you are a martial artist and you practice Jeet Kune Do. I'm also a martial artist and I've fought in a cage fight in Russia.
Lovely.
How is it different what you do?
So Jeet Kune Do is Bruce Lee's form of fighting, and there are several aspects of Jeet Kune Do that are different from MMA. But for the sake of our conversation today, let me demonstrate something to you. Let's talk about Kisav. Right?
What is it? What is Kisa?
So Kisav is the ability to sense movement, right, and fight. So, for example, let's do something, right?
Okay.
Touch my forehead. Okay. Hold my collar.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Now, let me feel your hand. I'm going to close my eyes, and
Okay.
if we have something which would,
Yeah.
I think, can I use this?
Yes, please.
Lovely. So if I use this, right? So now I can't see anything.
Blindfolded.
So let me blindfold it. So now in any order, you can either touch my forehead or hold my collar, right?
Okay.
Good. You're dead. That's
Interesting.
Kisav.
Thank you. Thank you for showing it to us.
Thank you.
And now we come to the end of this discussion. I learned so much about biometric. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here. That's
Thank
a
you.
lovely set of questions. Thank you. Pleasure meeting you.